Feeling like life's thrown you a curveball the size of a minivan.
Or maybe just staring down a bunch of paths and they all look kind of hazy.
Yeah? Wishing you had a GPS for your future. You're definitely not the only one feeling that way.
Hmm.
We all get those moments where the big questions just feel, well, huge.
Right.
But what if you could, like, ditch that deer in the headlights feeling?
Okay.
And actually tackle these uncertainties with a structured, almost playful kind of mindset?
Well, that's the fascinating territory we're getting into today. We're taking the core ideas of design thinking.
That problem-solving magic they use for products, right? Smartphones, coffee makers.
Exactly. And looking at how you can apply it to designing a life that, truly fits you.
Ah, okay.
And our main guide for this deep dive is the brilliant book, Designing Your Life, by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans.
Exactly. So think of this as your cheat sheet for those big life puzzles. Our mission here is really to pull out the most powerful insights and, actionable steps from designing your life.
Right.
So you can start tackling those uncertainties with a designer's mindset.
And it's not just the book itself we looked at, right?
No. To give you the full picture, we dug into articles reviewing it, examples of the exercises, even a study on how effective a life design course based on it actually was.
So these ideas have some real-world legs.
Definitely. It's clear these aren't just abstract theories. They're tools people are actually using. They can really make a difference.
Okay.
So with all that, where do we even begin to design a life we love? How do we start?
Well, the first crucial step, according to Burnett and Evans, is getting really clear on the challenges you're actually facing.
Okay.
They call these problem questions, these kind of open-ended inquiries about the areas of your life that feel, well, stuck or just not quite right.
Like those nagging thoughts, how can I find work that actually excites me? Is that the kind of thing?
Precisely. Or, how can I build stronger relationships with people who really matter? Those sorts of big open questions.
Okay, let's dig into these problem questions a bit more. Because, as the authors point out, not every problem is one you can actually solve, is it?
That's a really key distinction they make. Yeah.
How do they break those down?
They categorize problems into 3 types. You've got gravity problems, moonshot problems, and surface problems.
Gravity, moonshot, surface.
The
Okay.
gravity problems are the ones you just can't change. They're the facts of life you have to accept or work around, like, you can't change the past.
Right. Unchangeable circumstances. Got it.
Then you have moonshot problems. These are technically solvable, maybe, but they need such an unrealistic amount of resources, time, money, energy.
So they're practically impossible for you right now.
Exactly. Like deciding you want to be an Olympic athlete in 6 months with 0 training, it's just not feasible.
Okay, makes sense. And the last one, surface problems.
Yeah, surface problems are the tricky ones because they don't actually get to the heart of the issue. They're like treating a symptom, not the underlying cause.
So it sounds like getting stuffed on those gravity or moonshot or surface issues is just a recipe for frustration.
Totally. You spin your wheels.
So how do we shift focus? How do we get to the problems we can actually make progress on?
The magic word they use is reframing. You've got to actively rework those gravity, moonshot, and surface problems
Rework them how?
into actionable questions that you can actually start exploring. So instead of that gravity problem, I can't change my past, you might reframe it as, how can I learn from my past experiences and make different choices now?
Okay. So it moves you from feeling powerless.
Exactly. To identifying a direction for, positive action, something you can actually do.
That makes so much sense. It's about finding where you do have some leverage, some control.
Precisely.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment, think about those open-ended problem questions that keep popping up for you. That's your starting point. Now, once we've got a problem area in mind, what's the next tool in this life design kit?
Okay, so the next crucial step is all about gathering solid information, evidence,
Right. Not just feelings.
not just feelings. And for this, Burnett and Evans introduce a fantastic tool called the Good Time Journal.
Good time journal. Okay.
The whole idea here is to move past your assumptions and actually collect concrete evidence about what activities in your life truly light you up.
You mean what makes you feel engaged and energized?
Exactly. Versus those things that leave you feeling drained or, just plain bored.
A journal, huh? Sounds straightforward enough, but I'm guessing it's not just like writing down what happened today.
You're right. It's more focused than that. It's got 2 main parts.
Okay.
First, the activity log. So throughout your day, maybe a few times, you jot down what you're doing,
It's just what you're doing.
and then you rate it on 2 simple scales. Engagement, how absorbed or in flow you felt,
Yeah.
and how energized or drained you felt afterwards. Could be a simple 1 to 3 scale. And yeah, you can find templates online for this.
Okay, log activities, rate engagement, rate energy. Got it. What's the second part?
The second part is reflections. So maybe once a week, you sit down with your log.
And look for what?
You look for patterns, any aha moments, things that surprised you, and you really zoom in on the details.
What's details like?
Like, what exactly were you doing? What was the environment like? Who were you interacting with? Were there objects involved? Who else was just around?
So it's not just a vague feeling of that meeting was bad. It's getting really granular.
Precisely. It's about the specifics. And the research we looked at had some really compelling examples of how this works.
Yeah, like what?
Well, think about Michael, this engineer who was feeling totally miserable in his new job.
Okay.
By using the Good Time Journal, he figured out he genuinely loved the core engineering, the problem-solving part. But he absolutely dreaded the people stuff. Writing proposals, negotiating fees, that stuff drained him.
So the journal helped him pinpoint the real issue, not just I hate my job.
Exactly. It gave him specific data. Or consider Lydia. She initially thought she just hated working with people altogether.
Okay.
But her detailed journaling showed something more nuanced. She actually loved one-on-one chats and brainstorming, but found big, unstructured planning meetings incredibly draining. It's that level of detail really zooming in that reveals the surprising truths.
Okay, so when we're doing these weekly reflections, looking back at the log, what are some key questions we should be asking ourselves?
Great question. You want to dig into the what, where, who, and how.
Okay.
What exactly were you doing? Creating, solving, talking.
Yeah.
Where were you? How did the place feel? Who were you interacting with? Was it energizing, draining, collaborative?
Right.
Were there specific tools or objects involved? How did they affect things? And importantly, who else was just there? Sometimes their presence matters.
Wow, that's really detailed. It definitely emphasizes a more data-driven approach to understanding ourselves, not just gut feelings.
Exactly. It's about gathering tangible evidence from your actual lived experience, not just assuming what makes you happy or unhappy.
And that seems crucial, because if you don't understand the real problem,
you risk pouring all your energy into solving the wrong thing entirely, which, as our sources stressed, just leads to more frustration down the line. Getting the problem right is just as important as finding a solution.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So, step 1, identify the right problem. Step 2, gather data with the Good Time Journal. What's step 3 in designing our lives?
All right, now we move into the fun part, generating a lot of potential solutions.
Okay, brainstorming time.
Pretty much. And for this, Burnett and Evans recommend using a technique called mind mapping. The goal here is really to unleash your creativity.
Right. Get lots of ideas out there.
Exactly. A multitude of possibilities without getting bogged down in judgment or practicality just yet.
Mind mapping. I've used that for, like, work projects. How does it apply to life design? It feels more personal.
It is. But the process is similar. You start by identifying 3 positive aspects or themes that came out of your Good Time Journal reflections.
Things that scored high on engagement and energy.
Usually, yeah. Or, if you haven't done the journal yet, you could just pick 3 things you think are positive and relevant to your problem question.
Okay, 3 positive starting points. Then what?
For each of those 3, you create a separate mind map. Write the element in the center. Then just let your mind free associate. Write down related words, ideas, concepts, branching out in circles. Aim for at least 3 layers of associations.
And the key is no filtering.
No filtering. Don't censor yourself. Just let the ideas flow. Quantity over equality at this stage.
Okay, so you end up with these 3 kind of webs of connected ideas, all starting from those positive anchors. What do you do with these big maps?
Good question. The next step is to look closely at each mind map and circle, say 3 to 5 words or short phrases that really jump out at you.
Things that feel interesting or resonant?
Exactly. Things that spark curiosity, feel exciting, or maybe seem totally weird but intriguing.
Okay.
Once you've got those key selections from each map, the fun part begins.
Yeah.
You start mixing and matching them. Combine them in different ways to generate potential solutions.
Solutions to the original problem question.
Right. Maybe it sparks an idea for an ideal job, or a different living situation, or just a better way to structure your week.
And you mentioned suspending judgment.
Absolutely critical at this stage. Deliberately ignore practical limits. Forget money, forget what other people might think. Just dream big. Explore unconventional ideas.
I know they have worksheets for this too, right? to help structure it.
Yeah, the Designing Your Life worksheets provide a really nice visual guide for the mind mapping and idea generation process.
I can see how this could really break you out of a rut. It forces you to think way outside your usual box.
That's the whole point. Generate a diverse range of possibilities. You're not looking for the one right answer yet.
You're just exploring the landscape.
Precisely. It's expansive thinking. That's how you uncover innovative approaches you might never have considered otherwise.
Okay, great. So we've used mind mapping. We've got this maybe slightly chaotic list of potential solutions bubbling up. How do we start to make these ideas more concrete, less abstract?
Right. This is where we move into developing 3 distinct Odyssey plans.
Odyssey plans. Sounds adventurous.
They kind of are. They're essentially 3 different versions of your life, looking out maybe 5 years.
5 years, wow.
Yeah, based on the possibilities you cooked up during mind mapping. And the crucial thing is, these plans should be substantially different from each other.
Not just small tweaks on what I'm doing now.
Exactly. Genuinely alternative paths forward. Really push yourself to think differently for each one.
Okay, envisioning 3 different 5-year futures. That feels like a big task. Where do you even start?
Well, Burnett and Evans offer a few helpful frameworks. One way is to base the plans on different core assumptions.
Like what?
Plan 1 could be, the path that seems most likely, or is maybe an extension of what you're currently interested in.
Okay, the main track.
Sort of. Plan 2 is, what would you do if Plan 1 suddenly became impossible? Like a total pivot.
Ah, the backup plan, but a real shift.
Right. And Plan 3. This is the fun one. What would you do if you had unlimited resources and didn't have to worry about societal expectations or failure?
The wildest dream plan.
Exactly. That one can be really freeing, unlock some hidden desires.
Okay, so that's one way. What's another?
Another way is to take those compelling combinations of words you circled on your mind maps and really flesh them out into 3 distinct 5-year stories or narratives.
Okay. And for each of these 3 Odyssey plans, what information do we need to include?
For each plan, you'll want to jot down a few key things. What resources would you need? Think time, specific skills you'd have to learn, money.
The practical stuff.
Right. And also, what are the key uncertainties or potential roadblocks? What questions does this plan raise for you?
So it's not just daydreaming. It's starting to think practically about what each path actually involves, the upsides and the potential hurdles.
Precisely. You're shifting from that blue sky thinking of mind mapping to a more grounded look at what it would actually take.
And that helps you evaluate them more seriously.
Yeah, it helps you see which paths really resonate on a deeper level, beyond just the initial excitement. And it flags things you might need to investigate further.
Okay. We've explored our problems, gathered data with the journal, brainstormed like crazy with mind maps, and even sketched out these 3 different 5-year Odyssey plans. Now what? This feels like the biggest step, actually choosing.
It does feel big, yeah. This is the final stage of this initial design cycle, making a conscious decision about which path, or maybe combination of paths, you want to actively pursue.
Combination, so you don't have to pick just one.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Burnett and Evans point out you might find ways to weave together elements from different plans. Or maybe you pursue one for a while, then pivot to another. It's flexible.
Okay, but if you are leaning towards one main path,
then it's really important to reflect, how well does this option align with your core intrinsic values? What really gives your life meaning? Does this path support that?
But just picking a plan on paper, it still feels like a huge leap into the unknown, doesn't it? How do you get more confident before making a big commitment?
This is where the absolutely crucial concept of prototyping comes in.
Prototyping, like for products.
Exactly like for products. In product development, you build and test early versions to get feedback and find flaws, right?
Yeah.
In life design, prototyping means creating small, low-stakes ways to experience aspects of your potential futures.
Okay, experience them how?
It's all about learning by doing, gathering real-world data, and reducing the risk of making a big jump based only on assumptions.
Prototyping your life. That sounds fascinating. Can you give some examples? What does that actually look like?
Well, one of the most powerful forms they recommend is conducting life design interviews.
Okay, but not like job interviews.
No, definitely not. It's not about asking for a job. It's about having informal, informational conversations with people who are already doing the kind of work or living the kind of life that you're curious about.
So you're asking about their story.
Exactly. How did they get there?
Yeah.
What's their day-to-day reality really like? The good, the bad, the ugly. What do they love? What are the challenges?
And this actually works?
Oh, yeah. Our research mentioned that guy, Kurt, who did 56 of these interviews
56? Wow.
and ended up getting multiple job offers because of the connections and insights he gained. These chats provide invaluable insider perspectives. They can open doors.
So what kind of questions should you ask in these interviews?
Good ones are: what was your path like getting here? How did you develop your expertise? What does a typical day or week look like for you, honestly? What parts do you find most satisfying? What parts are least satisfying?
That's brilliant. It's like getting a sneak peek without having to commit. What are some other ways to prototype?
Oh, there are tons. Thinking about a career change. Maybe volunteer in that field for a bit. Or take an introductory online course. Shadow someone for a day if you can.
Small tastes.
Exactly. Thinking of starting a business. Offer your services on a really small scale first, like a side project. Or draft a detailed business plan and get feedback from people who know the industry.
Right. Avoid jumping in head first. Like, wasn't there an example of someone who opened a deli?
Yeah, Elise.
Yeah.
She loved the idea of cafes, the ambiance. So she opened an Italian deli.
Yeah.
Hated the reality. The actual day-to-day grind was miserable for her.
So prototyping could have helped her.
Definitely. She could have prototyped by catering a few small events first.
Yeah.
Or worked part-time in someone else's deli for a few months. Or even just done a bunch of interviews with deli owners. Low-commitment ways to test the reality.
It's all about actively testing the waters before diving in. Okay, but what if these little experiments, these prototypes, don't go well? What if they fail?
Yeah, it's actually expected. Burnett and Evans talk about building failure immunity.
Failure immunity.
Yeah, and reframing failure as failing forward. The whole point of a prototype is to learn.
Ah, so if it doesn't work out, it's not a failure, it's data.
Exactly. It's incredibly valuable data.
Right.
It tells you what doesn't work or what needs adjusting in a low-risk way. It helps you refine your plans and steer closer to something truly fulfilling.
So embrace the learning, not fear the failure.
Precisely. It's about curiosity and experimentation. Every experience, even a tough one, is a chance to learn and grow. Life design isn't a one-time destination. It's an ongoing process.
This whole approach feels so much more dynamic, adaptable, like a constant cycle of trying things, learning, adjusting.
That's exactly it. Life keeps changing, right? Our priorities shift, new challenges pop up.
For sure.
So the Designing Your Life framework isn't about finding one perfect answer forever. It gives you a structured yet flexible process to keep reassessing, keep generating new options, keep experimenting as you evolve.
So there isn't one best life.
Nope. There are many, many ways to create a life filled with meaning and joy. The key skill is learning how to generate good options and learn from your experiences along the way.
It really does loop back to that initial idea, wanting clarity but feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
This breaks it down.
It takes those huge, daunting life questions
Yeah.
and turns them into these smaller, manageable steps. Identify the problem, explore it with data, brainstorm possibilities, prototype, learn, adjust. It's a practical, empowering toolkit for navigating uncertainty.
And I know there are even more resources out there for people who want to go deeper, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Burnett and Evans have created lots of extra stuff, helpful worksheets, discussion questions.
Things to really help you apply it to your own situation.
Exactly. Great for working through it yourself or even talking it through with someone else.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final thought or challenge you'd like to leave everyone with?
Well, building on that idea that this is an ongoing process, I'd encourage each of you listening to think about just one small prototype, just one tiny experiment you could try in the next week. Something to explore one of those problem questions that's nagging you. Or maybe test out a tiny piece of a potential life direction that sparked your interest today.
Just one small thing.
Just one small thing. Because remember those words from the book, designing something changes the future that is possible. Even a tiny low-stakes experiment can unlock new possibilities, give you surprising insights.
That's a fantastic, really actionable challenge. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, if you want to explore this framework in even more detail, we definitely recommend checking out the book Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. Thanks for tuning in.